Today on the Transplant Helper, I just want to pause to remind mainly myself as well as you that in the transplant life, even the littlest of things can turn out to be a really big deal if they're ignored and overlooked. Stay tuned.
Hit the subscribe button and the bell notification to become part of the Transplant Helper community.
Hey folks, welcome back to Transplant Helper again today. My name is Jim Merle, and yes, as I said just a moment ago, even the little things can turn out to be a big deal if you're not taking care of them and if you're not fully aware of potentially what could be going on in your body. And that was no better known than just about last week. I think it was actually on Wednesday. I was kind of walking around that day, doing my typical routine, maybe even out taking an exercise type walk, which, yeah, I do that sometimes, not nearly enough, but I was out doing a little bit of exercise, and I noticed that my pant leg, my blue jean leg, was rubbing against my shin, and there was something there. It was kind of sore, but I didn't pay a lot of attention to it. I just knew that there was an issue, went on about my day, probably even forgot about it until I got ready to go ahead and take a shower that night, get changed out for bed, and as I was getting in the shower, I looked down at my shin because I remembered that, and saw there was a little hole in my shin, just a little hole, about the size of a pencil eraser. No big deal, but it was obviously an open wound, okay? So I went in and cleaned that off pretty good in the shower, gingerly, by the way. But I determined that when I got out of the shower, I probably had to put a Band-Aid on it. So that's exactly what I did. I jumped out of the shower, I found the box of Band-Aids, boom, slapped a Band-Aid on it, went on about my business. No problems, right? I went ahead and went to bed that night, probably about 2:30-ish in the morning. I woke up because every time I had moved, the sheet was rubbing against my shin, and it was pretty painful. And so I just kind of reached down, under the covers and felt around. I could tell my Band-Aid was still there, so I just repositioned myself, fell back asleep, not really thinking much of it even then. Got up the next morning, threw on a pair of blue jeans, got ready for the day, took the kids to school, got back home, was about to take my morning shower, which I typically enjoy, and that's when I pulled the Band-Aid off, looked down, and what the night before was roughly the size of a pencil eraser was now about the size of a dime, and that was oozing pus. It was terrible looking. I mean, really, it didn't look good at all. I was a little bit more concerned about it. I could see there was a circle of redness, maybe out to about 2 inches, a circle of redness around that. The whole shin itself was very tender to the touch, and so I knew it was becoming a little bit more of an issue. So I did exactly what I have always done all my life, taught by my parents, grandparents, who knows, to do, and I immediately got out of the shower that morning to repeat the process. However, this time, I grabbed a little bottle of hydrogen peroxide, which we keep around the house, and poured it to it. I mean, I stuck it to it. And just like you would know, if you've got any kind of infection or any blood that's down inside of a wound, putting hydrogen peroxide on it will make it bubble. Mine looked like a volcano exploded, but I thought, well, I cleaned it out. That's going to be better. Put another Band-Aid on it, this time with a little thin layer of what I know is A&D ointment, kind of like a Neosporin type, a little bit different. Put some A&D ointment on it, slapped a larger Band-Aid on it by now. Now I've had to move up to these, and went on about my day again. And then it was about middle of that second day, I was out doing some other things, and I began to notice that not only was there more pain there, but obviously it was becoming more and more tender to the touch. So I stopped what I was doing, sat down on the couch for a few minutes, pulled my britches leg up, pulled the Band-Aid off, and by now, this thing that was once pencil size and dime size has now gone out. It's probably more like nickel to quarter size, somewhere in there, and it's extremely tender and painful by now. As a matter of fact, now not only is there a red circle around it that's grown, now I'm dealing with some swelling that's going on. I don't realize the extent at that point, but I'm dealing with some swelling that's going on. So obviously, back to the bathroom, back to grab the bottle of hydrogen peroxide, boiled it out again. Thought I was doing the right thing. It hurt when I did it, but it made it feel better. Bandaged it back up, went on about my day, but by now I'm kind of walking with a little bit of a limp. And this is just the second day now. I'm kind of walking with a little bit of a limp. Went on through my routine, went to bed that night, but not before I went ahead and cleaned it out again with hydrogen peroxide, again with the same routine. Didn't sleep well, kind of tossed and turned every time I moved, whether it was my pant leg or my sheets, whatever. Everything was tender, very uncomfortable by now. Even just moving in my foot was getting really sore, and I knew it was getting worse. So in my mind, I'm already starting to think to yourself, Jim, you're going to have to see a doctor about this one. You need to get this checked out. But because I'm a man, and we as transplant patients, we deal with so many other things other than that are far worse, kind of got pushed to the back burner. So I make it on to I think by Friday evening, I was walking with a real bona fide limp. It hurt to put weight on that leg, especially if I'd sat for a while and then tried to get up. The stretching or whatever of the skin right there on the shin bone, and everything was getting a little bit worse. So, of course, my wife by now chimes in. You need to go to the doctor. You need to get this seen about. You need to go to urgent care. You need to, and all this stuff. I kept pushing that off and denying it until finally I get up again after having done the same routine from Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, even Sunday, 2 to 3 times a day, grabbing the peroxide, pouring it in the wound, cleaning it out, constantly bubbling and oozing and just nasty looking. Finally determined last night that I needed to do a little bit of research. You know, I'm a Google doc, not a real doctor, but I'm a Google doc. Need to do a bit of research and see if there was anything I was missing. Is there something else I can do for this? How can I really deal with this wound? Again, I'm saying this because it seemed like no big deal at all on the first day. Here we are about the third and the fourth day, and it's a really big deal. I can, hardly put any weight on the leg. It's just aggravating. So I go online to do some research, and I began to immediately find the connection between me using the hydrogen peroxide 2-3 times a day, pouring in that wound, and what I thought was good wound care. Keep it clean, keep it dry, keep it covered. That was basically the keep it's I had known. But I found out I was actually doing that wrong. As a matter of fact, the majority of physicians now, and the main article I read came from Mayo Clinic, so we usually would quote them as a real resource. Mayo Clinic said that using hydrogen peroxide to clean a wound initially is a good idea for getting that debris out. That bubbling action tends to push, dirt and different contaminants out of the wound. But after that point, they basically said, stop. Don't use that anymore because it's pretty acidic or something like that. And it tends to slow the healing process and make it worse. So what I concluded then was, hey, Jim, you've been doing it all wrong. You've been boiling this wound out every day. And in essence, every amount of healing that has begun to occur, you basically washed that off. And that's why it's gotten bigger and bigger. And now it's more and more infected. Now it hurts even worse. And I just wasn't making any headway. So that's when this morning came up, and I decided, hey, I'm going to drop the kids off. And as soon as I do, I'm going straight to the doctor to get this thing checked out. Of course, they looked at it, concluded exactly what I had known. Basically, may or may not have had a scrape or a cut. There was some form of staph type-ish infection that got in there that's been eating away at it. And she told me, just like I had read on my web searches last night, from my Google Doc perspective, no, don't pour the hydrogen peroxide in it that many times a day. Again, that's something that I had been surprised by. I didn't know. I had always just done that. I always heard that this was the way to go. Apparently, it is not the way to go. That what you need to be doing with that wound is basically just cleaning it, either naturally with some running water and then being sure that it's dry, or maybe some alcohol, but really neither one of those, peroxide or alcohol, on a completely open wound over a long period of time, because it is going to be eating away at the tissue that you're trying to grow back. So what happened to that? Well, it went from a small pencil-sized place, now it's right at quarter size. It's still very painful, and I ended up getting 2 shots and 2 types of medication, including one type of cream that's a prescription, quite a bit better than the Neosporin or the A&D ointment. But now I've got 2 prescriptions and 2 shots to deal with, and at least another week of follow-up with the doctor to make sure this thing is healing. All because in the beginning, I made a wrong move and I also tended to ignore it, okay? So what I'm telling you is this. Number one, just this new fact about wound care, stay away from the hydrogen peroxide if you can, particularly over a long period. And number two, pay attention to your body. How many times have I sat in front of this camera and spoken to you, I mean you, right there, you, and said, know your body, take care of your body, pay attention to your body, act on everything quickly, don't delay in anything. So many phrases I've used, and then here I sat, I've done basically none of that. I've tried to be my own physician. I've tried to take care of things for myself. And yeah, it's backfired this time. And now I don't know how long I'll be dealing with this wound, but hopefully it'll get straightened out here pretty soon with the prescriptions and different things. But don't wait. If you've got an issue, as small as it may seem to you, find a way to get that looked at, get that checked out, and get the best medical advice you possibly can. Because what do we want to do? We want to live. We want to do well. So thanks so much for joining me today. I'm praying for all of you every day. And if you need anything particularly, please comment below. Let me know about that. Send me a text. My number's here on the screen. I'd love to reach out to you. And if this video helped you out in any way, please like the video. For whatever reason, that helps YouTube. And it certainly helps me. It makes me smile. Yeah, smile when I get those likes. But go ahead and like the video. And I look forward to talking to you next time. Stay stronger, friends.